I want to start by knowing a bit your ideas about what is psychotherapy or biodynamic therapy.
What is biodynamic psychotherapy?
Yes.
Yes. I ask myself a lot of these sort of questions all the time, and very often I feel that the crucial thing is helping somebody to feel at home in themselves.
That's a very nice metaphor, yes. And not only a metaphor.
No, yes. And I think from home, then somebody can go out and be with somebody else and relate with somebody else. But if they don't have a home to come from and to go to, how can they really be with somebody else?
Yes. It is very interesting, Clover, because it reminds me some participant in a group that was saying in his childhood he was born in a hotel because the family were owner of this hotel.
Right,
you know.
Okay. Yes.
And then he used to move from one room of the other, so he never had
a real room of his own.
His room, you know. And then it was difficult for him to find a way of really taking care of himself or finding this place that you were talking about now, because he moved so much, you know.
Yes.
And then by chance I told him, look, maybe there is one room that never changed in your life. And it took him some time to realize which room was that.
Yes.
And I think that relates to what you were talking about, isn't it?
I think so. Yes. Something stable and consistent.
Yes. In yourself, in your body, as a room. You know?
Well, yes, and in yourself. I don't really see how you can feel at home in yourself if you don't feel at home in your body.
Yes, exactly.
Because there's nowhere else to be at home except in your body.
Yes. Can you talk more about that, or even how we can reach that, you know?
Well, I think there are many different approaches which can all contribute to somebody actually feeling in their body, feeling themselves being in their body, and then actually feeling at home there is a kind of another dimension almost, isn't it?
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And so what I find the most difficult thing to communicate to somebody, if it's not already self-evident to them, is how, none of the words, unfortunately in English, none of the words work. What do we mean by mind? You know, mind and body. That's not really a comfortable division or a comfortable way of expressing it, but I'll talk in those terms because it's the most current terms. I hope that I produce a book while I'm still alive.
Of course.
And I would like to call it Soul and Flesh.
Yes.
Because I prefer flesh is something which is constantly rebuilding itself and in constant metabolic process. And the body tends to be fossilized before it's alive.
Yes.
You know, it's not a very living term in some strange way. It's become kind of thingified instead of being a process. I mean, yes. So So what would you like, which, I mean,
Well,
such a huge field,
yes.
where would you like me to enter it?
So we were talking about the possibilities, to find the place in your body.
Yes.
The other day, for example, we were talking about vegetotherapy
Yes.
as a psychotherapeutic technique.
Yes. 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 And I think that's the technique that most totally, for me, works completely together with what I'll use for shorthand called the mind and the body. Because and for me it's clear that the fact that we talk in terms of energy is very useful for such a discussion, because it's obvious that any material thing is fundamentally energy. We understand that now from physics. So the substance of my body is energy in this particular form.
Yeah.
And what could my thoughts and my emotions possibly be except energy? And we talk about the flow of energy. We, in biodynamics, talk about the flow of energy and the cycle of energy of an emotional event, that cycle of energy. And to me, I feel that, with every breath that we're taking, we are in interchange between what is happening in me and what is happening beyond me in the universe as a whole.
Yeah.
So it's a very precise connection of the individual with the whole energy, the cosmic energy, as Goethe would probably put it.
It's a cosmic energy, yes.
Yes. But so, in the biodynamic vegetotherapy process, essentially, the simplest form of it is simply that somebody lies down and relaxes and is invited by the therapist just to let the breath come.
Yes.
And to see what happens, just to be aware of what happens. And as a therapist, we're there to help them recognize that something is happening, because it starts to happen at such a subtle level that most clients can't take it seriously for themselves until they've experienced several times what a rich process it can be. But the way that the energy is flowing in you, if you're my client at this moment, might mean that your hand starts to move in some way and you're not even aware of it. You might be thinking of something completely different.
Yes.
But in fact, this is what's happening. It's what's going on.
Yeah.
And if I just help you to be aware that there is a movement and just let that movement come strongly. So I'm not making any suggestion at all, any new suggestion. It's all starting. I'm recognizing a process which is coming in you, and I've no idea where it's going, and no idea what it's leading to. And as typically, we were talking also about one typical way of a vegetotherapy session might go, and that somebody becomes aware of either some trivial, apparently trivial movement impulse, or they might be aware of a tension which is growing stronger.
Yes.
And then we might invite them to see if there's any movement which changes the feeling and what sort of movement this part of your body feels like making, and so on. And all this is discovering, kind of bringing up to the surface some impulse in you which you're, for any reason, not spontaneously aware of. You're aware of it with the support and encouragement of the therapist.
Yes.
And then but essentially these are all movements of energy.
Yes.
And it seems to me that the energy, we can say the energy is moving in your body, but at the same time there is an impulse in your mind, in your potentially conscious mind, but it's not ringing any bells at all. But it's there's a connection.
Yes, yes.
And we don't know what it is at all.
Yes. So this leads us directly to non-verbal communication, no? Because as the therapist is trying to contact, those expressions that are being expressed by either little movements of the body, either the breathing, either how they look like, etc. So this is like bringing from a non-verbal state, no? Does it make sense to you?
You say it's non-verbal, yes. I mean, the client is not exploring it with words. That's absolutely true. They're exploring it through sensations, through movements, through impulses. Yes, that's absolutely true. But I was just held up by the word communication.
Yes, yes.
Because at this point, I see myself as the therapist, in one sense very present with you, but I feel that you are autonomous. The process is happening in you, and if I'm encouraging something, I'm kind of magnifying something which is there already.
Yes.
I'm not changing it.
Oh, no.
But I'm not really communicating. All I'm doing is encouraging you, supporting you, because for you it's such a strange experience suddenly to pay attention to a bit of a twitching finger.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't do that spontaneously. You wouldn't pay attention to that. You'd stop it. And if you became aware that your finger was doing something funny, you'd stop it.
Yes.
And do something else.
Yes.
And think about something else. And I'm helping you to stay with the impulse, because from experience I know that it's very possible that this impulse is coming from could be quite a deeply buried source.
Yes.
But it's a source which is deep inside you and important for you. And it is energy that hadn't expressed itself fully in the past. This idea of having interrupted an emotional process is very important. But my point of view is that at this point in the work, I'm there really as a magnifier, possibly as a kind of spotter. I can, there's something happening there and he's not aware of it yet. So I can spot it and I can magnify it and help you to magnify it more till it becomes recognizable. But otherwise I'm not actually interacting with it. And so you spoke about non-verbal communication. To me, at this point, communication isn't the most crucial word. It's the awareness inside yourself. And some clients have developed so much in awareness inside themselves that they virtually need very little support from the therapist, because they can touch these, with their awareness, they can touch these levels themselves and trust them. So of course I feel that the communication in therapy is enormously important, and the relationship between us is enormously important. But at this stage of discovering the kind of the hidden springs inside, I don't think there is that same, we're not involved on the same level.
Yes.
At that point. And so my feeling is that, say this impulse comes first as a physical movement, and I encourage you to let the movement get bigger, and then it's very often really becomes quite expansive, and I invite the rest of your body to come in, and that quite naturally stimulates a deeper breathing.
Yes.
I don't have to ask you to do anything with your breath. It happens. Just the movement brings by this more expansive breath. And then what I have in mind, I have in mind that there is a meaning to this. This impulse connects to something that got thwarted somewhere in the past. So I do have this idea, but I don't know what the content of it is at all. But I think we may find it. If we don't find it in this session, we may find it a bit later on. So, as you're breathing more, as we've established the flow of energy through the breath, first through the movement, then through the breathing, and then I would be happy if you let some sound come with the breath, because then you're opening this most expressive, important expressive channel that there is. So then you hear yourself making a sound, and if you can accept that, I mean, for a newcomer this can be quite a shock, but if you can accept that, when you come to the point of accepting this, then I might say, see if any word comes into your mind. Just say what the word is. And, I mean, very often it's a word like no, or something, and particularly if it's been that sort of gesture. And so then, if we've now established the breathing, which is deeply connected to a depth in a person, and they're letting the sound come through, and they're letting a word come through which has some meaning. And then sometimes then, you know, what more do you want to say? See if there's more you want to say, you know, and or I might say, see who it is you're saying it to. And then we're in a scenario that may be more or less like something that you have lived through, but where you didn't fully express yourself. And so at this point then obviously we say the mental faculties are engaged, but the energy is coming through in your understanding, in your mind, in your words. But it came it impinged in your body in the first place rather than with an idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
So would you say that the meaning is the last thing to come?
Yes, but we haven't absolutely the meaning. I mean, you can do it the other way round, which
Yes,
we can
sure,
talk about
sure,
as well. But
sure.
if we're doing it this way round, then the meaning may still be pretty obscure, but it becomes obvious that this is a moment when you wanted to reach to somebody and you didn't dare, or where you wanted to push somebody away but you didn't succeed, or something hadn't succeeded.
Yes.
You hadn't succeeded in something or other.
Yeah.
And then if the more fully your energy is allowed through in this expression, that's wonderful in itself. But for me, it is not principally about discharging energy, getting rid of anger, or whatever it is, getting rid of grief. It's not that. It's about finding you, this element of you that had not managed to express itself before, something you had not managed to express before. And with all my support for your energy in whatever form it wants to come, you can trust yourself to say to the vision of your father or mother what you didn't manage to speak up for yourself at the time. And that's, then we've really brought something very full back into life.
Yes.
Yes. And then we see where we go with it. And at that point, I mean, I could, as a therapist, I could role play if I thought it was going to be easier for you to look into somebody's eyes instead of imagining it. I could stand there for somebody. Or I could simply, as your therapist, rejoice with you that you finally managed to speak this essential truth out about yourself. So, what role I actually play is very variable according to the session,
Yes.
according to where we're going.
And would you say so that it is important that the person is integrating this part?
Well, it's
somehow,
natural. It is naturally. I mean, if we're following this kind of idea of, first the breath, which is sort of the life energy itself, and then the voice sound, and then the word, and then the actual scenario. I mean, that is totally integrated.
Yes.
The passage is totally integrated, and then how we then resolve it and relate it to how the person relates to people in their present life. I mean, that can be discussed later and worked through, but it arrives as an integrated experience, equally in the mind and the body, I would say.
Yes.
That's, as it were, the ideal picture of how it can be. And then often, of course, you don't get that far in any particular session.